Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Alan and I'm currently converting a Ram ProMaster into a tiny home on wheels. With the holidays and a bit of travel in the mix, this build is moving slower than I originally planned. I'm not gonna lie, it's been pretty slow. I know it'll pick up eventually, but for now, it looks like I'm taking my sweet time. The first thing I wanted to start with was installing the rear windows. I'm planning for this build to have a lot more natural lights than my previous ones, so I'll be adding a few windows throughout, starting with the fixed rear windows. On my last build, I installed two small bulk windows, and although the process is technically the same, cutting holes for larger windows is definitely more intimidating. I started by gathering all the tools and materials I'd need for the install. Once everything was laid out, using a stepper drill bit, I drilled a pilot hole large enough to fit a metal nibbler's head. Then, using the factory outline on the inside of the rear door as my guide, I started cutting out the opening for the window. I decided to use a metal nibbler instead of a jigsaw because I thought it would be faster. Turns out, I probably should have practiced a bit beforehand. I'm sure I'll get better with it over time, but I really had to slow things down here, or at least try to. As you can probably tell, I could definitely use some more practice. While cutting, I used painter's tape along the outline to help reduce vibration as much as possible. And after the initial cut, I went back over a few sections to clean things up. Not the cleanest cut in the world, but it'll do. When the cut was done, I used a file to smooth out the edges and remove any sharp spots. Honestly, I didn't have to go too hard on the edges since the cut from the nibbler was already pretty clean. Or at least it would have been if I know how to use it properly. After that, I sprayed the exposed metal with Rust-Oleum primer to protect it from rust. And while that dried, I moved on to the second door and repeated the same process, drilling a starter hole with a step drill bit, cutting along the factory outline, filing and sanding the edges, and painting everything to seal the exposed metal. Once both doors were done, I vacuumed up the metal shavings and did a bit of cleanup before moving on. After letting the paint fully dry, I installed the rubber edge trim that I purchased with the windows. Using a plastic mallet, I carefully tapped the trim into place around the opening. Once the first one was in, I repeated the process on the second door. Before installing the windows, I cleaned the area with alcohol to make sure everything was dust and oil free. Once that dried, I applied a line of 3M step primer around the opening and let it flash for about 5 minutes. While waiting, I made sure to clean the windows with alcohol as well. Then later, I applied a consistent bead of 3M window weld around the perimeter where the primer was applied, making sure there were no gaps or breaks in the seal. After that, I carefully placed the window, lined it up, and used tape to hold it in place while I double checked the alignment. Once everything looked good, I applied a bit of pressure and let it set. I repeated the same process for the second window. Primer, window weld, placement, tape, pressure. And just like that, the rear windows were installed. The next video will probably be about the side window or the subfloor. We'll see. Just make sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with the build. In any case, thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.